All right, the Digital C podcast.
Whoosh. That was supposed to be a wave sound. Caw. Seagull.
And I'm recording.
I'm also recording.
Oh, wow. We're back, and we are just absolutely shattering records for how frequent we're recording these days.
I believe this is the second, maybe third time this year.
I think it's the second this year, but our last one was really close towards the end of last year. So we're back pretty quick.
Right.
And I know both of us are feeling pretty motivated because we've recently commissioned an artist to sort of meld two ideas that you and I had together into one and make a pretty sick logo that I'm really excited about. Actually, Ryan just got those files yesterday, so
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super
so we
excited.
can yeah. So maybe the odds are pretty good that there will be a human listening to this. So if you're listening to this out there sometime, thank you.
Yeah.
And I apologize if my voice sounds a little strange. It's peak allergy season in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, where I reside, and I'm suffering. And also woke up with a sore throat, and I think it's just allergies. But if I sound extra bad, I'm gonna blame that.
Yeah. Even my eyes are watering when I drive with my window down, and I have no allergies.
God,
So
it's so bad out there. It's
that's how bad it
ridiculous.
is when somebody who does not have allergies is crying.
Oh yeah, and if we do release any episodes, pretty much every episode we recorded up until pretty much this one, we've recorded with the intention of maybe releasing it, probably never releasing it. And there's been a lot of technical hiccups, and I apologize for that. So if you're listening to any episode previous to this, that's dated previous to this, which I think we've been recording since honestly 2021, that we've never released anything, and it's currently July of 2025. So if there's any, I'll put a date on any episodes that I released for when they were recorded, and if they were recorded previous to this, they're going to be pretty shoddy for audio quality, and I apologize for that. These ones still might be shoddy for audio quality because we're kind of learning as we go, but I just revamped my setup. I should sound a little bit better this time. We learn.
Build the airplane midair,
But in the meantime, we are here to talk about Clair Obscure, Expedition 33.
which has seemingly taken the world by storm.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about this game, and it came at the perfect time for me because I was just in between games. I need something to play, and I think someone on our Steam family library, I think it was Adam, had it, and we downloaded it, and I gave it a shot, and I was like, I really want to talk about this, so I pretty much forced you to binge it so we could talk about it.
Yes. So the current situation is with exception to a few strays, I've golden pathed Clair Obscure about as fast as I possibly can, and just went start to finish as quickly as I could go, and I clocked in somewhere between 27 and 30 hours, and I know you did about double that. So
Wow,
you will
only
be our
27 hours.
guru.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, well, let me ask you. So, do you think that that has affected your enjoyment or what you think of the game?
Oh, I have so many things to say about this game.
Okay. This is going to be an interesting conversation because I am going into a podcast. Usually, I have a very good idea of what I think that you think of a game, but I honestly have no idea what you think of this game based on the because you and I stay really radio silent when we know we're gonna record about a game, and we see each other like once a week or so, or more. So it's like we have to I always just have to try to detect your looks or your size or like the things you say, but usually if you like a game you'll like smile when you talk about it, and this game you haven't really done that, and I have a feeling that you don't like it that much, and I'm interested to see what your score is. So let's both give our score maybe right now.
All right, who goes first?
um I need to lock in. I've been so back and forth on what I'm going to score this
I've been
personally.
all over the place
Yeah,
on what I thought I would give the game in the first 5 hours versus the end of the game.
exactly, me too. Okay, I'll go first. If I could give this game an 8.7, I think that that's pretty much exactly what my heart tells me that it is. I'm not sure. I can't remember if you and I do a 100 point scale or if we do a what is it, 20-point scale or whatever we do. If I had to choose between an 8.5 and a 9, I would give it an 8.5. That's where I stand.
Dang, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good, especially for me. All right, you go, you go. I'm really excited to hear what you have to say.
I'll give Expedition 33 an 8.
Wow. Wow. A very rare time that I rate a game higher than you do.
A very rare time. So are you settling an 8.5 or 8.7? Is I usually get lazy and I just end at half scores. So
I think we should end at half scores. I think that it I don't know why. That's just what my heart tells me
yeah,
is we should end at half scores. So I will give it an 8.5.
yeah. I just like rounding up and down.
Yeah, I think I wanted I was really torn between an 8.5 or anywhere between 8 and 9. When I first started the game, I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And I was really, really getting into it. I found myself towards the end, especially because I did put in quite a few hours. I put in about 60 hours and I didn't even do everything that there was to do. And it just ended up being a little bit of a slog for me to finish. I was just not quite feeling it. And every time I thought that I was getting close to the end, there was more content. Yeah, it overstayed its welcome just a little bit, in my opinion.
Well, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty here soon, but I agree. I think this is a I don't even know if you can call this game a JRPG, but it is a JRPG like that heavily relies on interaction within the combat sequences, and I feel like that is one of the things that makes it drag a bit. The dance that you have to play with every encounter.
Yeah, I think it's a JRPG through and through. Wouldn't you say?
It's tough. Um, yes and no. There's so many things about it that I would agree about it being a traditional JRPG, and then so many things that just aren't quite right about it for it to be one as well. So,
What would you say? Why is it not a JRPG?
well, for starters, you don't kill God. Spoilers. So
Is
there's
that a is
that.
that a requirement of
No,
JRPGs? Okay.
it's
You know,
very typical in Japanese games, but especially JRPGs to have to kill God. It is a overdone theme in the genre.
well, I think that there's an argument to be made that the painters in the canvas are gods.
Um, yeah,
From the perspective of the painted, they're gods, right? Because they can unpaint them and paint them and bend the world to their creation. They're gods. Maybe
yes,
not in the quote unquote real world, but in
right.
the
I was,
canvas.
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I don't know because no one knows that who is painted until the very tail end, and that's only a select few. So in a way, yes.
That's actually not true. There are people in the canvas that know exactly what the nature of the canvas is.
Well, right, a very select few. And again, if I'm wrong, definitely tell me
Yeah.
I'm wrong because I put in about 30 hours and you put in about double
No,
of that.
you're
But
right.
it's
It is a select few. It's like the people who are in the know kind of know, and a
yeah,
lot of people don't.
right.
Yeah.
Which the vast majority they're back in the city of Lumiere. None of all of them know that the number keeps going down and more people keep dying, and no one knows what's over on that island or across the sea, except for those who have gone. Is
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, and across the island is just a tip of the iceberg for what's actually happening in the canvas.
Mhm.
But anyways, okay, so beyond the God thing, because I'm realizing going into this that you've played way more JRPGs than I have, and I don't even technically know what fully qualifies this to be a JRPG. All I know is that it hits the numbers at least as well as like something like Breath of the Wild hits the numbers for being an RPG, right?
Yeah, and I say this with a ton of nuance. In general, I would say yes, this is a JRPG, but there are so many things about it that distance itself from the genre that it's hard to say that it still is.
What do you think makes it distance itself
Um,
besides being completely French and not Japanese?
uh, there's there's so many things that it does differently. I would say the first thing is the game is pretty easy, which is I know like difficulty shouldn't be a defining factor of the genre, but it just is. The game in general is quite easy. You don't have to build your characters in any particular way. As long as you dodge, you're going to be fine. There aren't any real big skill checks throughout the game. And again, this is all golden path. So if you stray off the path and there's just some absolute monstrosity of bosses, which I know in a lot of JRPGs there are, so it might be hypocritical saying this. There's just not there's not much checkpoint. There aren't very many checkpoints nor challenge to the game. The entire absence of mana or magic or AP or anything like that. And I do realize that there is AP in the game. However, every not every nearly every JRPG has a system where you are trying to get from point A to point B. You have X amount of mana or AP or magic, and you have to squeeze every last drop of that to get to the next point so that you can refresh and do it all over again. Clair Obscure is set up in a way in which you rarely ever have to worry about AP. You always start with 3 minimum per character. You can build it during the fight. It's never something that you have to worry about. I don't know. Just that for an example. There's a few other things that I could bring up, but I think those are kind of the core pillars of the argument. It is more RPG than JRPG in a number of ways, mostly to do with gameplay. And of course, you can get
Yeah.
into the nitty gritty of characters interacting with one another and that sort of thing. But
Maybe you could call it the action RPG of the JRPG world.
absolutely, I think that's the quickest way to describe it.
Say more about the players interacting with each other, or characters interaction with each other. Excuse me, characters interacting with each other, because I felt like there was quite a bit of that, like
Well,
at camp and stuff.
yeah, you have cutscenes, and then you have at camp, and that's about it. I don't feel like there's a ton of character interaction within gameplay segments in between those hub moments, I guess you could
Yeah,
say.
yeah. So
Which
again, it's like a more kind of watered down, streamlined action RPG version of a JRPG.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
JRPGs and Japanese games, a lot of times in general, you can look at Yakuza or Persona, or and I know Yakuza is not a JRPG. You can look at those games, and there's a lot of, you can call it fluff or you could call it side activities. There's a lot of side content that really doesn't have anything to do with the main core portions of the game itself. So in Yakuza, there's all these little mini games. Same thing with Persona, for an example. There's a lot of, okay, now we're doing beach volleyball or baseball or some weird side activity where characters are bonding and they're getting to know each other. There's typically large segments of the game that are dedicated specifically to characters interacting with one another and like interpersonal conversation. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean?
like how in Persona you can go on like hangouts with your friends and do stuff like that, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. But yeah, what do you think about the hype of this game? Do you have any thoughts on it? Do you think that it's deserved? Do you think that it's where do you think it's coming from?
Yeah. The hype for Clair Obscure is awesome, and I love it and hate it at the same time. I understand exactly why this game is as successful as it is, and it's generally speaking so much more successful than most JRPGs, and it's for a number of reasons. Number one, it is not your typical Japanese JRPG. This is a French JRPG, which means it comes with a new coat of paint, which is more than welcome from just about everyone. We're very used to the personas of JRPGs. We're very used to how things normally are as far as art design goes. Typically, JRPGs do not get the, I hate saying the AAA coat of paint because it was a small dev team of 30, and I know I'm sure they had external help, but you have
Yeah.
Unreal 5. It can make games look really good. I have a bunch of things to say about Unreal 5, of course, for this game, like I have with most games.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
But in the grand scheme of things, this is a pretty darn good outing for an engine in which I usually have a bunch of problems with. Again, I'll bring up these issues later. So you've got these great graphics, you've got this art design that is much different. It is not a Japanese looking game. it it streamlines a ton of gameplay, like core gameplay mechanics that a lot of people do not like about JRPGs. I think there's a ton of people who have come out and they have experienced their first JRPG in the most mainstreamed way possible. And I don't mean that in a bad way per se, but this is definitely so much different from anything that would have turned someone off before, whether it was 1997's Final Fantasy VII, whether it's Persona, whether it's Fire Emblem, whether it's Xenoblade, right? All of these
Yeah,
different
yeah,
games, these are games that a lot of those people are not going to touch with a stick. And this is something completely different. The graphics are incredible for the genre's standard. The gameplay is explosive and interactive. The sound design is incredible. Immediately, the story is captivating and interesting. It doesn't take 40 hours to get going, which can be
yeah.
huge. There's so many things that it does to alleviate a lot of the stamina that's needed to participate and thoroughly enjoy a traditional JRPG.
Yeah. You finished the entire game in about as long as it took me to get to the tutorial of Persona 5.
Yeah, same. I think the tutorial of Persona 5 Royal particularly, I think, is somewhere around 30 or 40 hours.
Yeah. Do you think if I wasn't pushing you to well, not pushing you, but if I wasn't like, hey, we should record a podcast on this and I was asking you about it like once a week, do you think you would have spent more time with it, or do you think you got just the right amount of time with the game?
I have I've had enough time to experience and dig deep into the game's core mechanics. Now, when it comes to the story, I definitely feel like I missed out on some things. By the time I rolled credits, I had a decent understanding of the story, but it's one of those things where I'll take BioShock for an example because I love BioShock. If you skip all of the recordings, for an example, if you don't do any snooping, if you don't really start digging and scratching at the surfaces, you are going to miss a lot of the important parts of this game's story, which is a core aspect of the game, right? The story is very
Yeah.
present. And so when you don't have all of those little tidbits to fill in the gaps of a intentionally cryptic story up until the last 20% of the game. You're really putting the puzzle pieces together at the end, and the story's designed to be that way. But I think you do lose a lot by not kind of thoroughly going through the game as you play.
You definitely do, but there's also the other side of that, which is where so when I first started playing the game, it took me a second to get into it, but then by the time you get to the continent and you're out of the tutorial, quote unquote. I guess that's probably not quite out of the tutorial, but you're in kind of in the meat of the game. I was pretty into it. I was really liking it. Then, like I said, towards the end, it overstayed its welcome a little bit. I don't think the gameplay justifies the amount of just straight up fighting you can do. Like it's kind of a one trick pony. Like you get the dodging down, you get the parrying down, you get your characters leveled up, you get the weapons that you want to invest in, and then it's just a lot of fights all the time. It overstayed its welcome for me just a little bit. And what the unfortunate thing is that there was still story stuff I missed because I was just tired of the game and I wanted to get through it. So that's unfortunate because the acting in the story is really, in my opinion, where this game shines. And of course, the music. The music is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the music it's one of the it's been said a million times by others already, but it is amongst the greats. It is amongst I don't know which games you start cherry picking, but you know them, right?
Yeah,
This is a titan, an absolute behemoth of composition and musical masterpiece. It's phenomenal. I want to get the vinyl of it. I don't know if there's one out already or if there will be one. I'm sure there will be. It's that good.
yeah.
It's I immediately think of Nier Automata and Final Fantasy VII, both well, one of which is a JRPG, and it's just the composition's incredible.
Yeah,
Can't say
I
enough
agree,
about it.
and it makes me think of God of War, and it's even more impressive. We were talking about Death Stranding earlier, and Death Stranding famously uses Low Roar as the band to kind of create the vibe for that game, and there's other bands in there as well, and there's some original
Mhm.
score as well. But as far as I know, Claire just almost everything is original, and it's really impressive. I think there was maybe one composer that did all of it too, is what I read. It's a masterpiece, absolute master class of video game score, and honestly, just music in general.
Mhm.
I mean, it spans the depths between like the melodic kind of folky stuff to haunting vocals to acid jazz to the combat music. I mean, everything is just masterfully done, and it's all got a French twist to it, and it's gorgeous.
The story, one of the things that I love about the story and the music so much is that as I was going through the game initially, I felt like the music was god tier but didn't fit the game. And then I also felt that way about the art direction. But it's not until at least in my experience, it's not until I got to the end of the game where all of this started making so much sense and that I wasn't looking at it right. And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is incredible. Like this is really really good." I thought the art direction was just way too, I don't know, eclectic, I guess. It just all over the place. I almost felt like I was playing a Kingdom Hearts game where you're underwater and then you're in a stone temple and then you're
Yeah,
in a forest and then you're in a snow mountaintop area and then
yeah.
it just felt like colors being puked all over the place all the time.
Hmm.
And even at times I was like, like this music is so good but it doesn't quite fit sometimes, not all the times but sometimes. But then as you kind of soak up the game as a whole, you realize how genius everything is and how everything really interconnects.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm going to talk about Death Stranding a lot because I think there's a lot of comparisons to be made here. Um, the biggest one, I felt like, especially going through the beginning part of the game, I felt like I was right back in Death Stranding, where I'm learning all these new words. It has to create an entire vocabulary for you to wrap your head around in order to understand what's going on. Like in Death Stranding, you're like, oh, here's BDs and here's BBs and here's the strands and here's fragile, but her name's also fragile, but her company's fragile, and Sam Porter Bridges, but it's a company called Bridges, and it's like you're just so lost. And the same thing is happening in Clair Obscure, where you're just like, here's Pictos, and here's Nevrons, and
Chroma
the Rapture, and Chroma, yeah, and the um,
and painters and
oh,
paintresses and
yeah, and the gestrals, and it's like you're just trying to figure everything out in a way that a lot of games, um, they don't have to do that because they're relying on more vocabulary that already exists, or it's an established world that you already kind of understand stuff, kind of like Zelda. But uh, the thing that about Death Stranding is that it does that really well. For some reason, it doesn't bother me, and I can't even articulate why it doesn't bother me that much in Death Stranding because
because
I
it should.
typically don't like.
It should, right?
It should exactly, yeah, and it should, and I typically don't like extremely convoluted stories. I think that and we talked about this in our Death Stranding recording if we ever do release that to the public, but convoluted stories tend to be a little bit like pandering to stoner bros, like whoa, my god, crazy, and that just doesn't appeal to me that much. Not to say I have anything against like stoner bros or that ideal, like the ideas. I just don't like things that are crazy for the sake of absurdity
Mhm.
and being crazy. I think Death Stranding absolutely nailed it when it comes to having a really convoluted, crazy world. And I think Clair Obscure just barely falls short of it being Death Stranding good. I think it's really convoluted, and it's kind of like what you said earlier. It takes a long time to actually get a payoff for it, and a lot of the stuff you don't understand until the end of the game. And that's okay because in a game like Death Stranding and in a game like Clair Obscure, it's it's not about the magic, it's not about everything that's happening. It's about the very simple theme. And both Death Stranding and Clair Obscure have a very simple theme, which is, in Death Stranding it's about human connection and, overcoming your trauma. And in Clair Obscure, it's about facing mortality and
And not
um,
overcoming your trauma.
and not overcoming your trauma. Absolutely. That's a very it's about getting trauma.
a lot,
Um,
and not being able to, and letting it best you.
right. And it does that exactly. And it does that really well. Clair Obscure does, but there's parts of it that I know we're going to get into the story later, but there's parts of the story that don't quite justify itself, in my opinion. What do you agree with that? Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I got some thoughts on that. Hey, I got some thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I got to do. Should we do a quick cut here? Only because my headphones are dying and I'm an idiot for not changing my batteries.
Oh man, I changed my batteries right at the beginning of the recording.
I
Yeah,
know.
so
I thought
that's
about
fine.
it and then I forgot, and I'm an idiot.
Idiot.
Okay, I know. So, sorry. Your last sentence was inconsistencies or things that fell short as far as the story goes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was kind of asking you if you had any thoughts on I guess my comparison between how Death Stranding does that convoluted story really well and Clair Obscure just kind of barely misses the mark. I mean, I don't know. What do you want to get into? Do you want to get into the story right now, or I mean, I haven't even opened my notes yet for the game. Let me do that. Okay, got that done. Yeah. What do you think? Where do you want to go?
Well, you're definitely gonna have to backpack us around as far as the story goes,
Okay.
because I did not go very far off the beaten path. So I just had an I felt, where should I start? That I don't even know how I want to word this.
You love Kingdom Hearts.
I love Kingdom Hearts, but Kingdom Hearts doesn't hide anything.
Say more about that. I've never played Kingdom Hearts. I've only watched some like story synop, mostly video game donkeys videos on Kingdom Hearts.
I cannot get into Kingdom Hearts
Okay.
because we will
All
be
right.
here until tomorrow, and nothing will make sense, and nothing will be said about Expedition
Yeah.
33.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I I have a love-hate relationship with the "it was all a dream" kinds of stories. This falls into the best case scenario, I suppose, for stories that do this. It reminded me a lot of Link's Awakening,
Mm.
which I love that game, but I also dislike its story, even though it is equally melancholy. And I love that part where you have this fictional world with fake people in it that don't really exist but still do exist, that you get feelings for, and then at the very end, just like Link's Awakening, just like Clair Obscure, none of it's technically real, with exception to the major players that are of this magical painting family.
Hmm.
And the game and the story does a great job of suspending your disbelief away from this kind of storytelling up until the end. Or if you're smart enough, or have the clairvoyance or foresight to pick this out before the story drops its bombshells on you, which some people might. And again, I might just not have explored enough off the beaten path to find these things. But it is so disappointing in one way or another when this is where they take it.
Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
I want to press you on that a little bit because even though these things are all happening within the canvas, there's still things that are happening in the real world, and the canvas is still affecting things in the quote unquote real world.
Yes, with that exception being the magical painter family. Yes.
Well, there's other stuff hinted at as well that I'm going to get into later, but also it begs the question: does it matter if it's not real, if the entire reality of these characters is real to them and they're in the basically it's the simulation argument, right? Like they're in a simulation world,
Yes, and that's the
but they
beauty.
still feel
Right.
feelings.
That's the melancholy that I'm talking about. That's the beauty of it, because there isn't any difference between this fictitious life of a random individual in the city of Lumiere within this painting, and
Right.
like that person still exists and has a family and suffers and experiences joy. So it's really no different from it. I just feel like as a plot device, it's just, I hate to say lazy only because it's been done before so many times, but that's just how it comes off.
Yeah. I mean, the concept is new. Like I've never outside of I don't know, like a side quest in Oblivion here and there, going into a painting and like having a whole game based on like you are existing within a painted world
Except for Mario
is
64. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, Mario 64 is another good example. Wow, this whole game is just a rip off of Mario 64.
That's right. That's right.
But it has been done before. It has, and I'm not saying it's unique, but like a AAA game where that's the entire concept. And you know what another thing I like about it is that it is the most French shit ever. Like
It is so French.
it's all just based on like sipping wine and doing art and, you know, then like brutal deaths.
And everyone's hot.
Everyone's hot.
It,
Even the gestrels.
in
Wait.
in the even the gestures. You like their bristles. I mean, what can you say?
Yeah. And if you do the right side quest, you can get that really skimpy bikini for Minoko.
I wouldn't know. I kept everyone's expedition clothes exactly the same because as soon as I put on the horizontally red and white striped traditional, this is exactly what you think of as a French person wearing outfit with the little
Uh,
beret and the shirt and the suspenders and everything. It's serious stuff's happening and people are dying and people are crying. I'm like, I can't take any of these guys seriously. I got to put them in their normal expedition clothes.
yeah, there's some pretty sick outfits you can get though. You didn't get any other cool ones?
I got a couple. One of my least favorite enemies to fight were the mimes,
Mm,
and I know you get a lot of outfits from them, and so I didn't like after I killed five of them and got their outfits and haircuts and whatnot. I was like, okay, I don't really care. I
yeah,
will.
I didn't mind fighting the mimes.
I will return to this game and play it very thoroughly. I am genuinely excited for that. I will probably wait for hopefully a GPU upgrade this year and then go back and turn up all the graphics to max and have a good
Yeah.
roll with this game because I did feel like I did not play this game as much as I'd like.
Yeah, and that makes me sad. I wish that you were able to put enough hours into it to get sick of it like I did.
Hmm. Yeah, and
um,
you know what? To be fair, I think I would be just like you in the sense that the gameplay would be the thing that would whittle me down and start making me getting tired of the game. Especially the song and dance that is the dodge parry and what's the final riposte that you get where the screen turns black and white or gray.
oh, right. It's like
It's called
extra gnarly parry or whatever it is.
yeah, exactly. Extra
Yeah.
gnarly parry.
I
The technical term.
I got bogged down by that stuff too, but it also was really fun for me. Like I almost never. Oh, I'm watching some gameplay right now, and there's also the jump attack thing you can do as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I it makes it because the RPG elements aren't that strong, and because it's like you said, it would be way too easy otherwise. Like the fact that almost every enemy can one hit you is interesting to me, and the fact that you have to dodge and you have to parry is interesting. And the I almost never dodged; I would always go for the parry, which made the
Same.
game a lot harder.
Same. I did not dodge a single time after the 4 hour mark.
I probably didn't either, and it was a lot of fun, and it reminded me a lot of like of a Souls like experience to where you have to really get those those parries down, which is why it surprised me a little bit that you say this game's easy because I found it to be pretty difficult at times.
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. It mostly is just a compare. It's comparative to other other JRPGs that I've played, where you really need to figure out nice, high quality builds for all of your party
Yeah,
members. You need to go and beat a side boss that gives you this thing that really gives you an upper hand and a way through something that would otherwise be incredibly difficult. It's I only feel that way because when you go to your drawing board, when you go to the chalkboard and you draw up your game plan, at the end the game plan always says react more accurately, learn the pattern of the enemy attack.
I see what you're saying.
You can
Yeah.
definitely grab pictos, and I'm not saying the creation of a party member or the customization of the party members do absolutely have an effect on the game, just not anywhere near as much as your reaction time on the dodge parry system.
Yeah. You
And
can pretty much
yeah,
do a trash build for every character, and as long as
yes,
you're really good at dodging and you're really good at parrying, you're gonna womp ass. Although
yes,
there's some enemies that simply are so powerful that they're just hard anyways, but usually that's only because you're underleveled when you fight them. If you level up and you grind, you're gonna beat anybody that comes across you or comes across your path.
yeah.
You're right.
That's another reason why I didn't go off the beaten path very often, because when I did, by the time it came to the next skill check or the next side boss or what have you, it just simply felt way too easy.
Yep, and you know what bothered me? Something that really bothered me was when you're exploring the world, especially in that tilt shift art style, when you have SKA and stuff, and you're flying or swimming or doing your thing.
I call that
Um,
FF7 mode. Yep.
okay, nice. I've never played FF7s, but it seems reminiscent of what other JRPGs have tried to do.
Mhm.
But there you go across some like portal things into a realm, and it'll have like a red danger sign next to it, and it'll say like basically trying to tell you you're underleveled for this area, come back later. And so I did that for every time that said danger. I just wouldn't go in it and say, "Oh, I must make a little note of it, and I'll come back to this later." Some of those, some of those rooms or some of those areas you can go in don't even have a fight. It's just like a little, you go in there and grab an object and get out. Why would it have a danger sign next to it if there's not even a fight in that area?
I
I
wouldn't even
found that
know.
out
I
as
never even went into one.
you never went into one.
No.
Wow, you missed a lot. Holy shit.
I know. Again, double about roughly double the playtime.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Yeah, you missed out on a lot.
to to add on to what you're saying, one of the goofiest things that I found interesting is that you don't have to fight any enemy that is quote unquote guarding a visibly dropped item on the ground. You
Yeah,
can
you can just run in there.
you can just run in there, snag the item, and leave. You don't even have to fight
Yeah.
them. There's like a couple
Although sometimes
instances that you
you
actually have
get
to.
stuff from killing the enemy.
Exactly. There are a
Yeah.
lot of pictos that are tied directly to certain mini bosses or certain enemies. So that is to be noted. Absolutely.
Yeah. Man, there's going to be if people are listening to this and they love Clair Obscure and they're really excited to hear us talk about it, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people upset with you for rushing through it so quickly.
You know what? Those people who are upset, I am also upset at myself.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
This typically isn't a way that I play games. However, at this very specific slice of my life has been very demanding as far as my time goes, whether it be work or other things. And I was
Yeah.
immediately behind. I did not start Claire at the same time that you did. There was a strong feeling that I needed to get to the finish line as quickly as possible. And also, I think, kind of makes for interesting conversation where you have somebody who is very thoroughly experienced the game versus somebody who main pathed it. And I think there's a lot to take from that.
I agree. I agree. I think that does make for good conversation. And I know that you will go back and thoroughly play it. And
Yes,
that being said, I don't think that you needed to put 60 hours into it to get what this game was trying to do. I think that this game would have been better suited as like a tight 40-hour experience. And maybe it would have been if I wasn't so bad, but like maybe people are way better than me. They did all the content and finished it in 30 hours, but it took me 60.
I'm gonna try my best to not sound uppity or posh. I have played a crap load of JRPGs, and that is one factor as well. Where I'm not going to say everyone who's played this game has not played a JRPG before, because I know that's not true. I know there's tons of people who have played more JRPGs than I have, and loved this game more than I have, or more than other JRPGs, which I totally understand. There is some things that I truly and deeply enjoy about JRPGs that were absent in this game, and that's just the simple fact of the matter for what I personally like in a game of this genre.
Yeah. And absent in a way that the things that this game does really, really well in my opinion, aren't quite enough to make up for the absence of things that I wanted as well.
Yeah.
It's in the same way, like I'll use Breath of the Wild as an example. It's it's got a lot of really absent RPG elements, right? And you can still call it an RPG, sure, but it's really basic. But it makes up for that with really, really intense exploration and world building and gameplay.
Yeah. The
Um,
sandbox is there.
yeah, exactly. So it gives you something to uh, hold on to, I guess. And Clair Obscure relies basically entirely on the story and your connection to the characters, and of course the music. But even the best music isn't enough to keep you in a game for 60 hours if you don't want to be there.
Yeah, and the fidelity and the visceral nature of the game, like oh the sound design, the sound design and the parry animations just alone, it
Yeah,
is like is did Dice make this? Like what is going on
yeah,
here? It was so it gives you goosebumps. You feel like you're there. It's immersive. It sounds good. It looks good. You feel good when you get that parry off on a nasty like 14 hit combo from the stupid boss that you're fighting towards the end of the game or whatever it is,
yeah.
and you block every single one, and then you get the big damage at the end. Like
Oh, there were,
it
yeah.
feels
It's a
good. It
huge, yeah.
feels
It
good.
does. 14. I fucking wish 14. There were some bosses that had like 30, like 30 runs, 30 parries before you get a parry, before you get the or yeah, 30 blocks before you get the parry. It's
Ugh.
it's absolutely insane. But yeah, that being said, there was something special about this game, especially in the beginning, that really sucked me in. It has this X factor that I can't really put my finger on. I think it's an amalgamation of a lot of things, and all things we've hit on so far. But do you want to get into the story,
Yeah, yeah.
or do you want
I'm
to talk
down.
more about gameplay?
You're well. We could. I don't know. Is there a whole lot more that we want to talk about in regards to gameplay?
Well, I have one thing actually.
Is there something that you came across that I didn't that that was just something that opened up a whole new door and kind of reinvigorated the gameplay loop for you?
No.
Well, that that I figured that would be the case, but you know, again, when you play half the amount of time, you just don't know.
Well, okay, I will say this. Number one, not going into all those danger areas was a mistake, and I made the same mistake in the beginning because it seemed like, oh, I'll just go level up and come back to these. But some of them you just go in, it's like a really cool tilt shift landscape. You run in, grab a little treat, and then get out. It's like usually it's like a little outfit or like a little music or a voice recording or something like that, or music that you can play at the camp, which I thought was really cool. Um, so that was interesting. That if you would have gone into some of those, you would have just gotten a quick little nugget and been able to get out.
Mhm.
But one thing I will say is that there's nothing in those. There's nothing. You experienced everything that there is to experience in the gameplay. What I discovered personally, and I've discovered this through another game that we can talk about briefly, or that I'll compare it to, is that I don't like, and I'm open to being wrong about this. So if anybody's listening, don't hate me. I'm just speaking my heart here. But I don't like Metroidvania style exploration. It always bugs me when this is implemented in games. And I know that maybe you feel differently, Ryan, because you've played
I do love
a few
Metroid, yes.
Metroidvanias. Yeah, yeah. But when I'm exploring an area, I like to comb through it thoroughly. When I see places, it stresses me out when I can see a little treat like up in a little like a nook or cranny up high somewhere, and I don't know if I progress, am I missing it, or am I going to come back to this later? Is it going to spit me out up there if I just progress further? Like I don't know which one it is, and it bothers me because I want to know if I'm going to miss it or not. And it just relies you, and then sometimes you end up missing stuff just because you missed it, and sometimes you end up because it mixes like here's the solve the puzzle, do this, and then you can get to that little treat. Or it's nope, there's no puzzle to solve, even though it looks like there might be. Just run past it, and eventually we're going to spit you out back here, and you're going to get the treat anyways. So it just stresses me out the whole time. I don't like it.
You-
Another game I was recently trying to get into was a game called Hollow Knight, and it is another masterpiece. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing. And again, talk about good music in a game. It's top tier. but it's another one of those things where and then what you're doing all the exploring. You can't get here, you can't get there, you can get here if you solve the puzzle. You're not sure which is which. And then eventually, when you do find out, oh, now I can get to that one area that I couldn't get to earlier, you have to backtrack through all that shit just to get back to it. It's super frustrating for me. And I just haven't found a game that does it in a way that makes me happy.
Yeah, you're not wrong as far as my preference. I do have those same exact feelings. However, there are some games that do it so incredibly well in which I forgive all of that. Metroid is a great example. Metroid is well, they pioneered it.
Yeah, they
So
named it. They
they're
named it that.
Metroidvania, which is a combination between Metroid and Castlevania, but Metroid does it so stinking well, and the entire game design is behind it. That's why it works so well. Whereas if you try and incorporate a Metroidvania style design in your game, but you don't just fully commit to it, it just doesn't quite work. Whereas again, those games are built around that concept.
Right.
And again, if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fair because it kind of stresses me out too. I like going into a sequence and just uncovering all the map, doing everything there is to do, and moving on, and not having to come back to something. There's a few exceptions, overpowered bosses that you just simply need to go further in the story and come back to and
Yeah.
tackle again. Those I don't mind too much. The other thing that stresses me out too is you're constantly trying to remember a laundry list of stuff in the back of your mind somehow without writing it down, of course, of things that you need to revisit so that oh yeah, well there's that one thing 20 hours ago that I
Right.
wasn't strong enough or didn't have the right power for or what have you.
Yeah, and
So
for
I
us in our
understand.
adult lives, 20 gameplay hours ago could be 3 weeks ago. It's
Yes.
it's really hard to remember little details like that when you're also trying to run
Yeah.
businesses and build bridges and have relationships and all these things that people
Yeah.
do.
Absolutely.
Well, how do you think Claire implemented the Metroidvania aspects? Did you like it or did you not like it?
Honestly, I didn't even get to see them really. I mean, I just went forward and there was a couple times where I hit my head against bosses because I was so under leveled that they're like some of these fights were crazy, which was honestly some of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
Where I mean, here's a great example. Uh, Shoot, the apologies for not remembering the name proper, but there is a masked boss in which has excuse me, it's one of the accents. There's two accents. One of them is the masked man or the masked murderer or the masked what have you. I can't remember the exact name of the boss, but it's the one with the mask. You can't forget it if you played it. And because I was going to revisit a la Metroidvania style those areas, I was like, well, I'll check that out later. I'm gonna head up to the boss. Well, I might have been under leveled the entire game, but I immediately, after 5 attempts, was like, there's no way in hell that this is even possible with the dodges, with the parries. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter which characters I have in my party for the fight. This is not going to happen. And I
Yeah.
actually ended up having to backtrack, and lo and behold, those little avenues that I skipped and didn't decide to go to had all of these mini bosses that significantly made the final boss encounter infinitely easier to the point where I flashed them once I killed the happy, sad, and angry masks
Oh,
of this boss.
right. I had a hard time understanding which boss you were talking about, but now I remember perfectly. And it
Yes.
says it when you go into that area, like, oh, we should. I think it's kind of a subtle dialogue thing between your team members who are like, oh, we should take out all those tunnels first before we go to the main boss or something.
I'm sure they said something. I'm sure I missed it because or maybe I didn't even care because honestly, I was just stomping everything in my path. That I was like, yeah, sure we do. Okay, yeah, like, yeah, please, I got this. Like, I'm the
Yeah.
champion right now because I really hadn't been challenged up until that point. And once I got to that point, I was like, huh, like I am getting absolutely stomped here. I have to be missing something. So lo and behold, I backtrack, I go through, I take out this mini bosses. Honestly, this isn't a great example of the Metroidvania style because I just completely ignored it either subconsciously or on purpose.
Yeah.
But that was one moment where I was like, all right, like I need to start looking around a little bit more than I have been.
Yeah. Yeah, and it rewards exploration pretty well, but a lot of times the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. You're just not getting enough cool stuff to fight that many bosses, especially if you're under leveled for the area. It's just such a slog. But a lot of people like that, and I can see why. It's the same reason that I will fight and explore areas in a Dark Souls game that other people might not get as much enjoyment out of. I get the appeal, but it just wasn't quite for me in a lot of instances.
Yeah, the
And
payoff, if
like I
the
said, it's
payoff's not
stressful.
there, it's not there.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
here's a great segue opportunity here. This game takes a lot of influence from many games, but one of which is from South's Dark Souls. And I wish they would
Absolutely.
have implemented it in a way that complemented it or ripped it off better, or whichever language you like to use. Because when you go from quote unquote bonfire to bonfire, and I know they're expedition flags, it's not, it's something different. I thought
Yeah.
there was a huge opportunity missed by the game being so easy and having, again, my AP, mana, magic, whichever word you would like to use, complaint about the game, where there is no, when you play a traditional JRPG, it is all about resource management with your magic until you get to that next rest spot, or saving up your money for items so that you can keep popping magic restoration potions, or what have you, whatever game you're playing. And so when you do fight these enemies, which again I think are a lot of the enemies are very inspired by FromSoft's art design. Not always. A lot of this is very unique. I'm very is it Sandfall? Is that the developers of this game?
I believe Sandfall Interactive. Yeah.
Sandfall, right? A lot of this stuff seems genuinely unique. A lot of it also does feel very inspired by some of
Yeah.
FromSoft's work. You have this it's almost perfectly set up to do the bonfire to bonfire thing. But again, it is so easy to either A, run around them and not fight any of them at all,
Yes.
or B, again, have no resource management in between fights at all, because you have way too many of your flasks. I'm sure they're not called flasks. You can heal your party pretty much anytime. I don't think there was ever a time where I ran out of my healing potions,
Me neither.
that are refreshed. I didn't use a single tint the entire game. I probably had 7 or 8 of each tint type as far as the inventory capacity goes. Didn't use a single one the entire game. I never healed in battle, aside from party heals. Of course, I used the healing abilities quite often with the party. But as far as items
Right.
goes, I never used them. I never revived anybody
Wow.
with the items. I didn't use any of that stuff. It was just completely. I was like, why is this even here? Because it is that easy. It's just all you do is parry, and when you're parrying, you're winning, and that's it. Like
What
there's no
difficulty did you play on?
just normal, whatever the default difficulty was.
I think I did too. Man, look at you with the flex over here. Because I definitely use some revive tints. Not often, but I would definitely use revive and heal tints every once in a while.
Now, for whatever it's worth, I used the ladies as my main three the entire
Mm,
game, which
that's a pretty
means
powerful. That's a pretty powerful setup.
Mael or Mael,
Yeah, Mael.
Mael was the only one of the three out of the ladies who doesn't have any direct, or at least that I didn't discover, couldn't think of direct healing abilities. Now there were some Pictos that could allow
Yeah.
for extra healing. You kill an enemy, you get healed, or you get double healing if someone else gets healed, or 15% healing if somebody else gets healed. Whatever those sort of Pictos, I might have been swapping in and out through party customization. Those healing options could have been there. But as far as is it Ciel or Seal?
Sael,
Ciel and
I think.
Lune.
Lune.
Between those two, it's like, oh my gosh, they're so powerful, both offensively and defensively as far as heals
Yeah.
goes. I just had no problem skating through the entire game just with those 2 out of 3 party members, doing as much damage as they could do, and healing as well as they could.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, the ladies are powerful as hell and all really interesting,
Yeah,
which I think is a good. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say Gustav and Vero, Vero,
Varso,
is it Varso? That,
Varso. Yeah,
that is it Varso?
I
That
have the
doesn't
character.
sound right. Is that right?
It's
I
Var.
just
It's Varso. I have
okay.
I have the character list
All
pulled
right,
up here
sorry.
because I don't want to constantly be
I
doing this
know,
like we always fucking do.
I
Oh,
know, I
it's
know.
excuse me, Verso.
Okay,
Verso.
Verso. Thank you, thank you. I was like, it
Yeah.
sounds almost right. So Verso, both of the guys are scrubs in this game in comparison to the ladies, in my opinion. I'm sure there's some build that
Um.
makes them good.
Yeah, that's definitely not true.
I when it came to how I was building the party, I was like, get these guys out of here. They're terrible. Just
Oh
keep
man.
just keep the ladies in here. Now, there was one time when I was using Verso because you get the mini bosses that do inversion, which is bullshit because there's no way of countering it. You just got to get over it. I was using his ability to absorb status effects and then dispel them on himself so that I could get through those fights, but there was only a few of those. So,
Yeah, I think there's also Pictos that do something similar, but yeah, Verso does have that. Man, unless you have any more gameplay stuff, I'd like to transition into story,
uh,
or we can always go back to gameplay later. We tend to bounce around a lot, and that's okay too.
we do. Let me see. I was kind of disappointed in how I thought we were going to get a end game playable character. You kind of get all the playable characters pretty early on, and then that's that.
Yeah.
Um,
As I'm looking through my notes here, I have written down that the world design can be pretty confusing, and I do agree with that. Even in both the tilt shift world and the when you're in the level, it's just it's the world is so busy, the art direction is so busy that it can be pretty confusing on where you need to go.
yeah, and again, I you know me, I'm going to take a swipe at Unreal. Unreal has a really hard time of shadowing environments in a way in which it doesn't just seem all muddled. It's not that it doesn't look good. I just feel like that like nothing really seems like it's in place in the environment because the way that the game is shadowed is so weird. This might be because I had to turn the shadows down to medium because they were so heavy on PC. However, in my experience, whenever I play an Unreal game, an Unreal 5 game particularly, and again, I don't know if this is, it's got to be a lighting thing. I just don't really like the lighting that much. Where the environments are so detailed and they're so busy, but I can never really differentiate anything from anything else sometimes when I'm just generally like looking at the scene. This is probably
Yeah.
subjective. I'm sure there's a lot of people who love it, but that's just kind of how I look at
No,
it.
I think you're hitting on the same thing that I was there too. I just didn't articulate it in the same way. It does seem like a little bit like there's a lack of shading or
Yes. Yeah. Like the
yeah, I don't know.
shadows
It's
don't allow for things to be grounded or something. So it just kind of seems like there's just insane artwork everywhere, but it all just kind of meshes. And then I'm just kind of like looking at a lot of intense art.
yeah. Yeah,
Here's the
that's how I
last
feel too.
thing that I wanted to say about the gameplay. The 4 battles for Pictos to unlock them passively so other party members can use them so they don't have to equip them. I didn't really see the point in this. It just kind of felt like the game was wasting my time here. Again,
Yeah.
this is coming from somebody who's played a shitload of Final Fantasy VII, where you have materia and you gain experience for that materia over time, and then that materia becomes powerful, and it's really meaningful that you sunk a lot of time into certain materia. But with these Pictos, you do 4 battles really quick. Now you can have that Picto passive amongst the entire party. It didn't. I was like, why? It was so insignificant. Like it wasn't a big deal, but I just felt like I was wasting my time. Like, oh, I gotta grind out like 4 fights really quick so I can use this new sick Picto for the whole party. It's just kind of a small complaint. Wasn't really that big of a deal, but it was something that I noted.
I noticed it was kind of random too. Like make it 10 fights or make it nothing. Like why
Mhm.
is it 4, you know?
Yeah, or make the Picto have the Pictos be able to level up. Maybe the Pictos get more powerful as you use them. I know that's exactly how Final Fantasy VII uses their materia. I can see how that could be a ripoff of their game, but it's just something that works.
Mm,
You know, you put time and effort and experience into a materia or a Picto, and now that is better because of that
yeah.
investment of your
Well, and
time.
Pictos do level up when you fight with them.
I mean, only to 4, right? I mean, you get the passive ability and that's it. I don't think Pictos like actually level up past that point. Not that I'm aware of, unless I
They do.
completely missed something.
No, they do. I know that they do. Sometimes when you find level 4 Pictos, or sorry, when you find level 20 Pictos in the environment, they're really, really powerful. Um, and sometimes Pictos just level up. But here's the thing, and this kind of hits on what we've been saying about the game, is that there are a ton of mechanics happening underneath the hood of this game that you can, if you want to, you can get down to the nitty gritty and really min max stuff. But the problem is that you don't have to.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
game is the game. You don't have to do that, and I get that the developers are trying to make it accessible to people, and I'm glad that they did because this game was a huge hit, and I honestly think it's going to be industry shaking in the way that games are developed moving forward.
Every JRPG is going to have interactive combat from here on out, guaranteed. That's the
That's
industry is going to
probably
copy
true.
this game 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
And
but
Super Mario RPG back in '97 had this, but this is what made it popular. Is this game?
yeah, and Sea of Stars had something similar where there was a real time dodge, but it was turn based combat, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of examples of this happening
Yeah,
for other games in the past. Yeah, exactly.
but the problem is, I kind of figured out that there was a lot of stuff happening underneath the hood, and I just eventually was like, do I want to spend time reading about this, or do I want to just play the game because I don't need to know this stuff? I just didn't like things would I would end a fight and things would just be randomly leveled up by a bunch of levels. Like I would fight an enemy and I had a weapon that wasn't even in my inventory or I wasn't even using or like from a character who wasn't even in my party at the time of the fight just gets their sword leveled up to level 16 from level 8 and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, I was noticing that, and I
"What?"
was like, "What is this?" Yeah, I
Or
noticed that same
I'm not
thing.
sure if it's that you find or by defeating that enemy you received a similar item that was level 16 instead of the level 8 item and it just replaced it in your inventory. I'm not sure what was happening there. And again, I didn't really care. I just kept on playing and I didn't it wasn't a sword I cared about anyway, so I just didn't even pay attention to it. Another thing that it does is give you a basically endless number of recoats so you can constantly be respecking your characters to go with whatever weapon you want. Basically, what I would do is just whatever weapon I wanted to use, whatever that weapon scales with, I would just completely respec the character to all the skills that go with that weapon, and that's it. And that would be super powerful. Um, yeah. So lots of stuff going on under the hood. Sandfall, Sandfall Entertainment, Sandfall, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Good job, guys. It was a great game. You made something. Yeah, it's if it's not a masterpiece, it's definitely orbiting masterpiece. But it wasn't focused enough to where it forced the player to interact with all the things going on.
That's exactly it. It's just, you don't. The vast majority of the game, you really don't have to interact with. You just if you get a few pictos, a few crucial pictos, and block and parry really well, and dodge. Yeah, that's it. That's you're good. Get some levels in.
Exactly. Make sure you're not completely underleveled for the boss, and you're going to be good to go. Okay, let's get into the story because
Let's
this
do
is
it.
something I'm pretty excited to talk about. So, right in the beginning, first thing we have to say is Robert Pattinson going to sue this game for stealing his likeness?
What?
Oh, the first thing I thought when I saw Gustav was that he looks exactly like Robert Pattinson.
It's funny that you say that, because now retrospectively I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of does. But the whole time I was playing this game, I was like, why did they make Gustav look exactly like Verso?
They do look really similar,
I'm like, is
especially
this
because
supposed to
as you
be?
play through the story, you can get Verso his haircut. You get to get Verso Gustav's haircut eventually, and yeah, they look very very similar. It's really funny. It's kind of like it's very. You can see where this game, in so many ways, is inspired from like anime and JRPGs because they only allow their like main characters to be like extremely good looking in the cultural way that good like, attractiveness is perceived. And in this case, that's the way French men are attractive, Verso and Gustave, and that's just how they're gonna look.
Yep.
And even his dad, like the Silver Fox,
Oh, Renoir,
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 yeah,
yeah.
like they're all just everybody is incredibly good looking in this game. It pulls no punches in the looks department. It's nice to watch. I mean, and I guess it tracks a little bit because this is like a painting where
Yes,
everybody is in Fantasyland. But
right. And Mael is like a re-envision of her daughter, and yada yada. But anyways, we're about to hop in here.
Yeah. Okay. To me, the music, everything, I don't want to say it fit well, but it just sucked me in. I was immediately the environmental storytelling that was happening. You start out as Gustav. And in the beginning of the game, this is very much Gustav's story. And you get to go sort of rekindle a love on the day that of her gommage, which is in this universe when she's going to die, based on the number that's on the monolith etched by the paintress. And you also get to kind of play as her if you want to. You get to choose who you run around the world as. But that being said, the story is told in the beginning from the perspective of Gustav, and you go and you meet your ex-lover. I believe canonically they broke up because they couldn't agree on whether or not to have children.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
Gustav didn't want to and she did, right? Or was it the other way around?
I think it was the other way around. I think he
I think you're
wanted
right.
to, but she did not want to.
Right,
And I think she gets ridiculed by one of the random citizens in Lumiere, like right at the very beginning, about not
right,
having children.
right. Which gotta say, I completely agree with her logic. I mean, I don't have kids, and I'm not sure if I want kids today for very similar reasons. Even though
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. I mean, if it was, it's funny if it was. It's funny that this game came out this year for us because you and I both would have been gommaged this year
Yeah.
because we're both 34.
We'd be dead.
We'd be dizzed.
We would have died right as we got off the boat at the very beginning there.
Oh yeah, I would have been just like Gustav and probably wanted to kill myself immediately. But thanks, Lune, for saving him. Anyways, I really like the tone of the game. I like how immediately it's making you confront what these people are confronting, which is just unrelenting grief all the time, and just an absolute awareness of your mortality for since tell from the day that you're born. You don't get to forget that you're going to die because it's on it's written in the sky.
Yeah. Kind of hard to avoid that. And it's an actual tough question too, because where you could bring a child into the world now, and at least in this very day in the United States in a first world country, that child's probably going to do okay. But in that world,
Yeah,
it's like, well, it's legitimately the existence of what they perceive as humanity and the continuation of humanity, the survival of humanity, and then also the the quality of life for that individual. Like it's a real thing.
right, right. Yeah, and the prospect of having children. I mean, eventually, if they don't stop the paintress, there's going to be a world where there's no more 15-year-olds. There's no more 14-year-olds. There's no more 10-year-olds. And all of a sudden, what,
Yeah.
5-year-olds are
So
going to be taking
yeah,
care of
Lord of
themselves? Like,
Flies.
eventually, they have to decide. Yeah, eventually, you have to decide to stop having children. And eventually, the people who do exist are going to be so prepubescent that they literally aren't going to be able to make children. So it's like, I think that there should be a cutoff at some point if you can't stop the paintress. I'm not sure when that point would be, but it's coming up pretty damn quick based on the number 34 that's on the monolith. So yeah, it's a very interesting concept. I liked it. It sucked me in
Mhm.
right away.
Like every child will be
You
orphaned at that point.
yes,
Now, one
yeah,
one thing that I wasn't on board with, and I never will be for any story, regardless of medium, is when the story tries to get you to have feelings for a death of a character right at the beginning. Whereas I love that this set up the plot and the lore, but I have no feeling for Gustav's ex dying right at the beginning. It's just like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm only 40 minutes in. I don't know anybody. I don't care for anybody quite yet. Yeah, but it's a great way to set up the lore of the world. I do appreciate that. I think that was done very well. But when she dies, it's like,
yeah,
okay. I mean, shit. Like we just started here, so I can't get on board
yeah.
with like the
The
feels
here's
for that situation.
I think that there's examples of that where it works really well. Number one, and I guess I should just put a spoiler warning here. Spoiler for The Last of Us. So if you have not played The Last of Us, skip ahead 10 seconds. But Joel's daughter in The Last of Us is a really good example of how that's done really well.
Yes, I agree.
And then this game, I think, does it really well. It uses it as a device to make you, as the player, confront what these people are confronting, and it also gives you a lot of. It serves the purpose of getting you more connected to Gustav, which it did for me because I felt his pain, and it also made you realize another thing, which is that as soon as the gommage is over, everybody's just kind of like partying and having a good time because this is just real for them. Every single year, their loved ones die and they move on. And Gustav, I guess when you're the person who lost a loved one, it's a little bit harder for you. And you see that with Gustav because he doesn't really want to drink with his expedition members. He wants to kind of just sulk. But they kind of force him to be like, no, man, come on, like let's drink some wine, let's have fun, like it's what this is about, and they kind of pull him back, and I thought that was a really interesting way just to get you introduced to what this world is about. Because it's telling you right away, it's giving you the message loud and clear. This game is about confronting mortality. This game is about dealing with death. And I loved it. I thought it was really well done. Bravo, developers.
The one thing that I did really like about that is when you realize alongside someone else, when you come to the same conclusion as someone else, but it's too late. I think that was done really nicely, and is very special. Where they
Yeah.
have this last second reconciliation, but it's just there's no more time left, and that's it. It's over. You know, the book's already closing.
Yeah.
And there's something very, very sweet and sour at the same time about that.
Yeah. And then it ends with her like literally slipping through his fingers.
Mm-hmm.
She's just like, she's gone and immaterial. And it was very powerful for me. I wasn't like, weeping or anything like that, but it was moving. And that's what art is supposed to do, is move you. And this game succeeded right out of the gate. And I really appreciated it. Then there's, you kind of can explore Lumiere and get to know some characters and get to know the expedition, and you're still really, really confused about what's going on at all. You have no idea. You're trying to piece everything together. You're learning new words. You're learning what chroma is and pictos and expeditions, and you don't know why the expeditions are happening, or maybe vaguely. And yeah, unless there's any other story beats you want to hit on there, we can go on to the landing.
Yeah. Moving on.
So we met our characters, we met our expeditioners, and and I really like the relationship with Mael and Gustav. I thought it was really sweet.
Right when you're fighting each other at the docks, you're like, I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but I didn't win that fight the first time. I'm like, damn, like homegirls. This is Siri. This is redheaded Siri right here, and I'll get more into that later.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. And then you land you're in Lumiere, which is I think technically supposed to be France, or a Paris adjacent style city. And during the quote unquote fracture, it was kind of kicked away from the continent and made into a little island. And it's pretty far, not that far, but pretty far away from the main continent, where a lot of big bad enemies reside, and no one's ever come back when they go there. So you're going to try to stop the paintress from painting the numbers that seems to kill people every year. You don't know why they're doing it, or who it is, or what's going on, but you are on a mission to go and stop her. And as soon as you land, it does not go well.
It does not go well.
And what I think is,
it does not go well in a couple ways. And this is not what you think I'm about to say. I know this is a small team. But especially if you're playing on PC, I can't imagine this is a technical hurdle for consoles anymore with how advanced consoles are now. And maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a developer. I don't know. But when are we going to get rid of these 30 FPS pre-rendered, super pixelated? Like, it is so foggy and there's so much opaque environment in that landing scene that I could barely even tell what was going on because it looks so bad. It's a
Yeah.
huge complaint I have with the game. Nier Automata did the same thing until they revamped Nier to make all the cutscenes 60. Why is it 2025 that we still have 30 FPS cutscenes that look like ass? Like, it is so, every time a cutscene comes up, everything is so pixelated and it just looks so bad. Drives me insane.
I have to believe I have to believe it's a stylistic choice, right? They're trying to make it look more cinematic because film is 24 FPS, right?
Yeah. But like for a video game medium, it just doesn't work for me. The
Especially when you're constantly going between like 80 FPS and then
Yes.
getting thrown
Yes.
into a 30 FPS cutscene. It does
Or
not work. I
or if you're a
100% agree.
weirdo like me and you always play the game itself without chromatic aberration and film grain on, so now you get their pre-rendered film grain and chromatic aberration plus 30 FPS. I'm like, not only does this not look anything like what I'm playing, but the fluidity of the FPS doesn't represent that either. So and then they do the not pillar box, but what is it when it does the horizontal where you chop the top and the bottom off?
Yeah, it's a
Is that
widescreen.
just called widescreen
It's what is it?
or
The
cinematic view
20
or
21 by not 21 by 9. It's
I don't know what it's called, but you know what I mean. It's like, okay, I'm playing the game, I have the whole screen, then I get into cutscene, and then I have like three quarters of the screen and 30 FPS, and my settings don't carry over. It's just like what? It's such whiplash coming in and out of cutscenes all the time that look and behave nothing like the game that you've been experiencing up until that point. And I cannot wait for the day where either someone agrees with my subjective preferences or the technology can catch up enough to the point where we don't have to deal with it anymore.
yeah. Yeah,
I know you're a film grain guy. I know you're
I
more of a film guy than
I
me.
I
So like I know I'm not preaching to the choir on some of these arguments here.
I'm not more of a I'm not like going to be I'm not a huge film buff, and there's some people that know like all the millimeters of all different like how certain films were shot in this millimeter, which makes it artistically superior to this. I don't get that deep into it. I do like film, and I like film grain, and I like chromatic aberration. And you know what? If there's anybody listening to this, I like motion blur, and I'm sorry you can hate me for it, but but you can keep listening because Ryan does not like motion blur. So to keep
Or film
listening for
grain.
Ryan because he's the reason anybody's here, anyways. Uh, but I believe widescreen is 70 millimeter, and I do like it when cutscenes are like that, are in with the black bars. I don't mind it. I don't. I'm neutral on it. But there's one thing that Clair Obscure does that I think is really interesting, that I like a lot, which is that it switches in the cutscenes between, was it 16 by 9, I believe is the ratio, to 4 to 3 ratio.
Yeah, it does do that sometimes. Yep. I don't like that either.
And it does that to symbolize.
I know why it does it. I still don't like it.
I loved it. I think it was a really cool way to symbolize the two different things that was happening, which is the 4 to 3 is whenever it's in black and white, and it's sort of meta painted characters having visions about the reality of the canvas. And then the 16 by 9 ratio is when it's anybody who doesn't know the reality of the world is experiencing a cutscene. I thought it was really interesting. And then Mael, you start to see her have both perspectives, which I thought was a really interesting way to kind of give you little clues that Mael is different. I thought that was really well and artistically done. I loved it.
It was very well done
And
for what they were.
and whenever you're on OLED, black screens are awesome.
Yes.
Um, yeah, but the 30 FPS stuff is just pretty much inexcusable. I get that if they're trying to make an artistic vision come true.
And it's not frame paced properly. I don't know if this is Unreal or if this is the developers, but like it's not even a
Yeah.
fluid 30 or a fluid 24 or whatever. It's choppy. Like I even turned on my monitoring software and it's sitting there like spiking the frame graph in the pre-rendered cutscene. I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a feeling it's an Unreal 5 thing. And even if it is trying to be a artistic vision, I don't agree with it because, like you said, like we said, if you're going from 80 plus FPS and then you get thrown into a 30 FPS cutscene, it's really jarring and it takes you out of it for a second. It's
It
immersion
takes some
breaking.
time to adapt to whatever FPS they choose, and there's not enough time in the
Yeah,
cutscene versus gameplay switch to climatize yourself
yeah, I agree.
or acclimate or whatever.
But besides that, what do you think of the Saving Private Ryan landing on the beach scene when everybody dies?
Um, it was cool, but it takes so long to have the understanding of the man behind the mask, and I know he's not literally wearing a mask, but Renoir,
Renoir,
right?
yeah.
It's like it is it's very cool. It's very well done, and it's unexpected because you're expecting all these big crazy monsters, and which there are some in that landing scene. But
It reminded me a little bit of the Elden Ring fingers, those
yeah,
monsters.
exactly. But no, it was very cool, and it's a the first 2 hours of the game, including the landing, assuming that's about 2 hours, is it pulls no punches. It's you're in it by the time you're playing off the boat, off the landing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's great acting, and the music and the acting is just it's really well done.
Yeah,
I
the
like it.
acting all the way through is phenomenal,
Yeah,
and it's unfortunately marred by I don't know if it's scope, I don't know if it's funding, I don't know if it's the team size, I don't know if it's that they just did not do facial animations or lip sync from to regionalize from French to English. But oh my gosh, the from
yeah,
the very beginning of the game to the very end of the game, the whole time I'm looking at these gorgeous models of characters, and a lot of the animation work is great, aside from the human face and lip animation, but it is so bad and so off that I feel like I'm watching like a old like karate kung fu dubbed movie where the lips and facial expressions never meet up with what's actually being said.
yeah. I did not play this game in French. I have a feeling that probably they said they looked at their budget and were like, what do we want to sync the lips to? And they're like, well, we're French as fuck and we're gonna sync it to the French voice actors, which I heard were even better than the English voice actors. And if so, great. I love that. And you know, if they made that decision, I could live with it. I got used to it, but it was a bit disappointing, especially because of how spoiled we are these days with you know big titles that come out that have really incredible lip sync and motion capture. So it was a bit jarring, and I got used to it, but it took me a while.
Yeah. And again, I keep thinking small team, it's their first game. It's they've been working on it for years. Give them the benefit of the doubt. And you want to talk about being a spoiled American and having every kind of medium and entertainment catered to you. Well, here's a perfect example of it. Hey, this doesn't look quite right because it
Yeah,
wasn't directly catered potentially to us like everything else is in the world. So, ta-
yeah, yeah. So that for that reason, I'm okay with it. Although I'm not even exactly sure that's the reason, but I'm going to assume
yeah,
that it is.
I'm going to assume as well.
But we get Gustav experiences a little trauma on the beach. Everybody dies except for what, five of them, four of them,
Yeah,
one, two, three, four. CL, Lune, Gustav, and Mael. Everybody dies except for those four in pretty brutal and unforgiving ways. Like they are just absolutely ended.
yeah, and
And in a terror, like they're
yeah,
terrified and
Gustav
screaming.
gets saved, and he has to live with some survivor's guilt. There's that one guy who
Yep.
totally saves his life and then dies almost immediately afterwards. There's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. And it's great. I loved it. I think that whoever motion captured and voice acted Gustav did a really good job.
The
And
Normandy landing by the French. The French developers recreating the Normandy landing in their own very artistic
yeah,
ways is really how I felt about it. Yeah.
honestly, it's how it felt on a smaller scale, of course. And but you know what's funny is that as you play, you realize that there were like you come across so many dead bodies. And in fact, really right away in the game, start coming across corpses. that have died, and you realize that it's only this small of a scale because people are so disheartened that they're not going on expeditions anymore. But there are so many bodies on the beaches and everywhere in the world, on the continent, that you realize that there must have been Normandy scale invasions of
Oh
the
yeah.
continent trying
And
desperately,
as the
to,
population decreased over time, you realize that the Expedition Zero must have been massive. It must
yeah,
have been huge.
yeah, hundreds, if not more.
Whereas this
Yeah,
one's, it's like a spec ops group
yeah.
of people.
And it's because of Gustav's, his chroma
Hmm.
invention, whatever that was, that they even have a chance of success anyways, which was cool. But you meet all the characters, you start getting introduced to even more confusing story elements, and obviously I'm skipping a lot. But is there anything in the beginning, a little bit of the game that stuck out to you besides what we've talked about?
Not particularly, no.
Yeah, Gustav about ready to kill himself was pretty
Yeah.
relatable. he, I don't know. What I think is interesting is that all the characters are flawed in interesting ways and not in obvious ways. They're all flawed in very human ways. And I think that moment of weakness when Gustav was about to kill himself was a good example of that. Then all these characters have issues that they're working through and trauma they're facing. It's a main theme of the game.
And
But
the irony
yeah,
of Gustav wanting to kill himself only for something to quite soon happen right after that.
right, right. And it's not it's it's funny because, like I said, this is Gustav's story, right? But I've almost never seen a game not only kill off a main character in a way that like they're not coming back, at least not till, we'll get to that later, but like Gustav was a playable character. He's basically, this is told through the perspective of his eyes. And well, sorry, maybe not his eyes, but it's told from Gustav's perspective. And they kill him. He dies brutally to save Mael. And the main character immediately shifts to a character we haven't met yet in Verso. I thought that was such an interesting choice, and it was jarring. It took me a second to get on board with that decision.
Yeah, I was like, "What? This is
How did you
yeah." I
feel?
mean, it was on. It happened. It
Like
happened so.
you're caring about Gustav, and you're leveling him up, and you're like you're putting points into his things, and all of a sudden he's just dead. And I thought it was a really really interesting way to force the player to confront mortality in the game itself. Like it starts off with Gustav experiencing that and making you see it through his perspective. And then once you start getting attached to him, it takes Gustav away from you, saying, "No, he's dead now." Like you have to just accept that and move forward. I mean, sorry to interrupt you,
Oh no.
but it was super interesting.
So with Sophie and Gustav, I was never attached to either of them, and they both died so soon in the story that I honestly didn't care that much.
Oh man, I definitely got attached to
And
Gustav.
as soon as Verso came in, I was like, this is knockoff Gustav. But at that point, like, I never ended up liking Verso that much either. And like again, my whole party was it Sael, Mael, and Lune. So
Hmm.
I was like, oh yeah, like that scrub's dead. um,
Man, that's so funny because Gustav is way overpowered in the
right,
beginning.
he's way overpowered in the beginning, but once you get the trio of ladies, I'm like, all right, sit down, Gustav.
Yeah. I always played with Verso or Gustav in the party because I always felt that it was right because the story was being told from their
Right,
perspective.
you go into camp, you can't switch to another character like you can when
Right.
you're traversing.
It's clearly
Yes,
trying to,
yes,
exactly.
they want you to see through the lens of those two characters.
Yeah. And I did get attached to Gustav. I thought he was great. I loved interacting with all the characters in the camp. I really felt for him when he landed on the beach and went through some trauma. I felt for him when he lost his lover. I really appreciated his relationship with Mael. I put points in his perk tree. I really liked his super overpowered move that he had, the overcharge move. Like I thought it was really cool. I thought I liked him as a character a lot. I even liked his flaws. I thought he was very human and interesting. And then when it forces you to confront his death and then switches immediately to Verso, it was just such an interesting choice. I'm not sure if I liked it. It's almost like I never accepted Gustav's death. Now I'm thinking about this out loud in real time, but it's like I never could get it as attached as I wanted to Verso until the end of the game because I was so attached to Gustav.
It's interesting that you
I don't know.
have this take and this experience because I almost had the exact opposite, and I very much so wonder if it is because I golden path this game so hard and so quickly. My exact notes was Sophie and Gustav's character deaths are meaningless, not heartfelt nor earned. Savage,
Hmm.
absolute savagery from my notes. But that's how I felt when I
Yeah.
was blasting through and main pathing the entire story, where both Sophie and Gustav died so quickly with how I was playing the game that I was just like, okay. It almost felt like the beginning of Game of Thrones, where it's like, damn, spoilers for Game of Thrones, watch out. Spoilers for Game of Thrones, watch out. I know everyone's probably read the book or seen the TV show by this point, but just in case, Ned Stark dies right out of the gate, and you're
Yeah.
like, dang, all right, like
Yeah.
people are gonna die, and some people are not
Yeah.
gonna make it all the way until the end of the movie or the end of the game or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting choice. And I think that I don't agree with you saying that I can see maybe if you I can see the Sophie thing being not emotional because it's so early in the game, but I definitely felt it was emotional for Gustav, especially because of the way that he died. He was fighting an opponent that was clearly way above his station. And it happened so unexpectedly. Like he just gets shot when he's just sitting there having
And
a conversation with
that's
Mael.
exactly why I wrote meaningless, not heartfelt nor earned. Is because not only is it the same motherfucker from the landing, it's the same guy, but it's also
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, like what up, Mael, like blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden he's dying. It's just like what?
Yeah, but isn't that how it happens? Like, isn't that how death
That's how death
comes
comes, especially in
often?
battle, where it's a bunch of
Right.
sitting around and waiting, and then all of a sudden somebody's dead, and they weren't even taking part in the action. And it wouldn't have mattered because even if
Yeah.
he was attentive and even if he did know that the attack was coming, he wouldn't have survived it anyways. So it might as well have been that way. It's not in a way where he was neck and neck skill wise with Winar. So
Right.
I'm fine. I'm fine with that part. But it was the way I was playing the game. It was so soon. It was so quick, and it was largely outside of a combat scenario where I was like, okay, well, here comes the big bad, and he's just wrecking everybody again. So there goes another one.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that, but I like the way that I mean, if you took time to get connected to Gustav, it felt like it happened unexpectedly, so it, subverts your
Hmm.
expectations. And then the way that he dies, he says, "For those who come after," I think is his last words, and he goes out fighting even though he knows he's going to die, which is a complete in that moment, he has a full character arc from wanting to kill himself like recently. But because he has this connection with his friends, and because I mean the way I played the game, it was several hours of gameplay between wanting to kill himself on the beach and then getting killed by Renoir. And he has completed his story arc in the sense that he is not just going to give up in the face of hopelessness. He's going to fight. And I thought that that was just a really beautiful way and sad way and emotional way for Gustav to go out, which made it even harder for me to accept Verso as the main character. But I did. I had to.
Yeah, and luckily he looked almost exactly the same, so it wasn't too hard.
Yeah. Luckily, he was sexy as hell, so it was just fine. He was another Abercrombie and Fitch or Calvin Klein
No.
underwear model or
Admittedly,
something like
though,
that.
he didn't have that awesome electric hand move, which I definitely missed for the rest of the game. So it was more of a mechanical loss for me
Yeah,
than an emotional loss.
which is good because it was OP. That
Yeah.
move was crazy. Verso had some really cool moves, and I really liked using him as a character. He was not a huge, well, depends on how you played with him and the build. He wasn't as big of like a just outright damage dealer as the girls were, but man, he could really had some specialty moves
Right.
that broke people, that break poise or whatever it was, and man, he was fun. I
Yeah.
liked him a lot. In fact, he was my bread and butter.
Yeah. I subbed him in twice in the entire game. both for inversion bosses. That was it. I never
Man.
played him again. I would bring him in. I'd be like, all right, soak up all the status ailments that the whole party has, and then get rid of them. Because there's two moves. You could soak up the ailments, and then you could get rid of them while healing yourself at the same time. You do that. That way, I could get through those two bosses, and that was it. And I benched him for the rest of the game.
That's so funny. Yeah, where do you want to go with the story from here? Because there's a lot we could say, and I know we're not going to be able to do a absolute recounting of
Right.
everything.
Nor would it
If
be.
you're listening to this, I'm sorry if we
Yeah.
skip your favorite part.
Yeah. Nor there's many others who have done the frame by frame much more
Yeah.
eloquently than we ever could.
Well, who's your favorite character?
It's got to be Mael. I think she's the star of the show from start to finish. She's the most interesting because she's part of the painting family, and she's the Siri of Expedition 33. She's OP. She's insanely powerful, both in game and
Yeah.
in cutscenes and what have you.
There's a good reason for that,
Right,
lore-wise.
exactly. And I feel like she's got the most. Well, she's the only character that is a fusion of technically two different beings, so that like is infinitely more interesting to me than I guess anybody else. Where eventually you do take Mael and oh shoot, I can't. You're gonna have to help me out with the person she's based off of, the one who gets burned in the mansion, and that the whole Verso dies and ends up saving her, and she's part of the painting family and all of that.
Oh, it's Aline is the mom, Clea is the other sister,
and her name is
who is IL?
Is it IL?
No.
Dude, this game in Elden Ring, it's like, would you guys stop naming all your characters super similar so I can remember?
Elden Ring is way worse than
worse.
this game, but this
And
game's
I'm genuinely an idiot when it comes to remembering character names, especially if they're somewhat similar. I'll just admit that.
We both are. We both suck at this. It's our Achilles heel as podcasters.
The lack of note taking on my part, 100%.
Come on, AI. Alicia.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Alicia is the real world version of Mael. Mael is the painted, reborn version of.
But then
Alicia.
they fuse, and that is quite interesting.
It is interesting. It is interesting and confusing. Where were you start? Where were you going with that?
Oh, who is my favorite character? That was the
yeah, Mael. Yeah. Mael is the fused. Mael is the painted version of Alicia, and they were both interesting characters. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'm watching a gameplay in the background right now as we're talking, and I just I'm watching the scene when Gustav dies, and he's talking to Mael, and he gets shot, and Mael just has Gustav's blood all over her face. Man, this game has some cool cutscenes and some really beautiful art.
So artistically done.
Yeah, Mael just looks so traumatized and terrified as Gustav's blood is just spattered all over her face. And then as Gustav dies, I'm watching it right now in real time, and her eyes are so wide, like she has this PTSD, and his eyes are immediately bloodshot, like he knows he's going to die. It's just very, very interesting and well done. I like it. Anyways, let's talk about Verso for a second. This character was so confusing to me. He started out interesting and kind of arrogant, and he's like a sweet talker, and then he flip-flops so many times throughout the story between being a good guy and being an absolute piece of shit.
Yeah.
I just don't know.
I hated him.
Where I stand with him.
I knew he was a piece of shit from the beginning.
I didn't hate him, but I'm
like, you're going to screw everybody over. I could tell.
And he just lies, and everybody just forgives him. If you like, what were your relationship levels by the end of the game?
Like 2 or 3 maybe per person.
Mm-hmm. Really? Wow. That's incredible. Mine was like 6 for everybody. I maxed out everybody's relationships.
Yeah, the relationships was a low light for me, but I think it's almost exclusively because I didn't play the game enough. So I can't even call it a low light necessarily. I just did not play the game enough to have enough relationship points with anybody.
Did you have any romances?
Nope, didn't even know there were any.
Wow.
But I would imagine there would have been
some,
between Verso and somebody, I suppose, considering that's who you play with for the 3/4 of the game.
Yeah, it's Verso, and I had a romance with CL, but I believe you could have romanced Lune as well.
Right.
Obviously, there's not going to be a choice to romance Mael. I don't think so there would be. don't know. It's French. Who knows?
It's not that much of a JRPG. I was
Yeah.
internally I was thinking, what's the consent age in France?
I mean, the fact that neither one of us knows the consent age in Japan or France is probably a good it's a good indicator to both of our character.
Exactly. She was simply too young. Powerful.
She's a powerful young woman, but not a romance
Right.
option. Anyways, Verso, what the fuck, man? Like, I don't understand his character motivations until the very end of the game. And even then, I don't really relate to them that much. But he couldn't help but be charming. So I actually did like him because of his charisma a lot of the time. And I guess that it's an interesting perspective because that's probably what everybody on the team felt, is that they kind of were won over by his charm. And in fact, even, I'm not sure how much of this you experienced, but even Minoko, who was maybe my favorite character of the entire game, would say that to him. Oh, Verso, you're not going to win them over with your charm this time. And he would say stuff like that. And it was really funny. The dialogue between Minoko and Verso was really, really good. I loved it.
Wait, hold up. Who's Monoko?
Minoko is the gestural that's on your team.
That
I was like, did you
no,
not
no, no,
get
sorry,
Minoko?
that you get in the ice realm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sorry. I was thinking of the big floaty blimp guy who's your transport. That's
that's
SK. My
Eskie.
bad. All right, I'm back. Sorry.
Yeah, Minoko is like the hairy gestural that you get, who has Noko, who's his like, I think his son, pseudo son, but maybe his dad. I can't remember, but they're close. And the relationship between Minoko and Verso is really interesting to me, and it's really funny. It has some moments that actually made me laugh out loud, which is something that video games don't do often for me. Often when I laugh at a video game, it is because of a gameplay bug or some sort of glitch that's just hilarious and silly. But the dialogue between Minoko and Verso was just like they're old friends. It kind of me of me and you, and it was just really cool. I liked it.
Yeah. Again, can't wait to go back for a second playthrough because I barely interacted.
Man, man, you missed a lot. You missed a lot of this game. One thing that I thought was interesting that especially is highlighted in Minoko's dialogue with Verso, and it's something that games have only just now started to do properly, which is that when characters interrupt each other, they actually in real time interrupt each other. Have you noticed this? I think we've talked about this before, and not in podcasts, but just
But just the
between you and
weird
me.
pause before
But in
somebody
like,
does interrupt them. Yeah.
yeah, like in Mass Effect, where it's like, Commander Shepard, hurry, we need to. I'm already on it. And it's like this like weird pause. It's like that always happens, and I'm not sure why developers have done that, or if it's just a limitation of technology, or if it's just assets loading in, or what it is. But I think in the dialogue real time and also in the pre-rendered cutscenes, they would interrupt each other and they would actually be in a mid-sentence and be cut off by a different character and they would stop talking and the character would cut in real quick time. It was really great. And Minoko did this to comedic effect many times and I loved it.
Yeah, I noticed that in the pre-rendered stuff. I did not notice that in game. Not to say that it didn't happen. I just didn't particularly notice it. Yeah, it's nice to finally see that weird gap finally be filled because we've certainly had
Yeah.
dozens of video gaming years where you have that weird uncanny valley of back and forth between characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And they try, like, games rely on it as just a thing that happens in real life, which is people talk over each other and interrupt each other, but it never really flows. And now we're starting to get that. And not only this game, but other games that I've been playing the last couple of years have done it as well. So it's really nice. Also, Verso had an opportunity to save Gustav, but chose not to. And somehow Mael still forgives him. I think that's crazy.
When
You might not have gotten to that. It's definitely a dialogue thing that happens
oh
at
okay,
camp between Verso and Mael.
that's interesting.
She basically says, hey, when Gustav was killed by Renoir and you came in at the last minute and saved me, could you have also saved Gustav? And Verso's like, you have a choice to lie or to not, but I chose to tell the truth. And Verso says, yeah, I could have saved him, but I was worried that he would change your mind away from helping me. And Mael accepts it and is still friends with him. I don't know. It's an interesting thing to
Yeah,
think
and he
about.
does that same thing, but in a
First,
totally different manner with the rest of the group too, where he backstabs
yeah,
everyone's
he just
lies,
lies a bunch.
and everyone's like, okay, well, I get. He's like, well, what would you do if you were me? And they're like, I
Yeah,
guess. It's like, well, okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, Verso. And because he's a Calvin Klein model and he's
He's been there. Yeah,
charming,
he's
it
been
just
there since
works.
Expedition Zero. So he's the
Yeah,
wise sage of the group.
yeah, pretty silly. I don't know. I loved Esquier. Esquier was really cute.
Yeah, SK was fun. An odd choice for transportation, but fun nonetheless. That part was very.
Yeah, definitely odd choice for transportation, but it just worked with the. I mean, I don't know. Isn't like this is Verso's childhood soul writing this, painting this canvas? So it's an interesting mix of really brutal reality and or unreality, I guess, and charming creatures
Yeah.
like the Gestrels that are just paintbrushes come to life that love fighting,
Well,
and
yeah.
Estia and
Yeah. So much
Monoko.
of all the characters and all the paintings is a way of dealing with trauma and loss and everything. So it is
Right.
very sweet how you could imagine this family coming up with artistic ways to dealing with loss and death.
Yeah. Yeah. What else you got? What do you have for the story? Anything you like or anything you hate? Any parts that we haven't touched? I mean, we haven't really gotten to the meat of the story, but I don't think we need to do, like I said, we don't need to do a retelling. I'm just kind of trying to hit things that were interesting to me.
Yeah, I know. I kind of skipped ahead a bit when I talked about the fusion between, was it Alicia and Mael? I forget the
Yeah.
real life counterpart. That's kind of when I started paying attention to the story proper, and I started getting invested and interested. Where it just thought so much of the game, I was like, okay, this is really cool, but like, what's really going on? Like, obviously,
Yeah.
we're trying to kill the paintress, and we're trying to make it so that everyone in Lumiere lives. But why is this guy here stopping us and killing everybody, being Renoir, and why is any of this stuff happening? So it does
Right.
become infinitely interesting to me as soon as you have the fusion of the two counterpart characters, where her hair finally goes from red to white, and you start building bridges narratively to start understanding literally everything that's been going on this whole time. And again, this is coming from somebody who main pathed. I cannot express that enough. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And one thing that I think was done poorly in the story is that it just doesn't really tell you what's happening outside the canvas, outside of the sort of inner workings of this family. It doesn't really tell you, like, it hints at really big things that are happening. For instance, they say in dialogue that there is a war. I think it's Clea, the
mhm.
sister, who's, I think they mentioned being the most powerful and most talented
Right.
paintress that is in the
She
family.
brings in the whatever the enemy type is to try
Yeah,
and like disrupt her mom.
the
Yeah, the
Nevrons.
Nevron. She paints like the Nevrons don't
Right,
exist until she brings them in. And then you've got the writers
right.
versus the painters, which is going to be like the setup for
Yeah, that's what I
the
was gonna
sequel.
say, is that
Uh,
yeah, they hint at the at a war going on between the writers and the painters. So apparently in this real, quote unquote, real world, there's people who can write and people who can paint, and that is somehow used as weapons, or they don't agree with each other and they fight each other.
and I think that's
It was
why
really vague.
Alicia gets burnt in the mansion. Is the writers light the mansion on fire? I think. I don't know.
I think you're right. I can't remember if that was I think the writers did attack and that's why. And Verso dies and Alicia gets burned and Verso dies saving
And
Alicia.
that's what starts the chain of events that is the game.
Right, right.
I'm very intrigued to see where things go for the sequel. I'm assuming that there is a sequel and that's where they take things. Because clearly there's some sort
I
of
will be too.
faction thing, and there's like this big deal about Alicia's birth. She's the chosen one, and it's this huge deal because they have that scene where Renoir and shit, I forget his wife's name, that they're looking down at her
Aline.
like our sweet chosen child. So yeah, there's
Is that Renoir and Aline or is that Mael's parents?
that's a good that's a good point. I'm not sure. I thought it was I thought it
I
was the
think
real
it
life.
was
I thought it was
Mael.
the real life parents, but maybe it wasn't.
No, because I think it was Eileen. No. God, it's so confusing. Alicia dies in the canvas, and when you die when you're a painter in the canvas, you just get reborn as a repainted version of that person. So I think when Mael was born to her parents, on in Lumiere, I think that scene you're thinking of was the parents looking down at Mael, thinking, "Oh my God, they weren't really trying for a kid, but it was kind of an accident." And they were like, "Well, you're special." I don't know. I got really confused with the story. And again, this is one of my problems with the story is that it was convoluted in a way that didn't work for me in the same way that Death Stranding's convoluted story worked for me. It was just too much and also too confusing, and I didn't understand the point of it outside of being a vessel to serve the player this greater message of confronting mortality.
I this again. This is it's a love hate relationship with these kind of stories where it's like it was
Mhm.
all a dream, and also figure out the story.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a bunch more story stuff we could get into. I really like CL's side story. I had a romance relationship with CL, and it was interesting going down that road with Verso. She kind of like rejects him, which I thought was kind of interesting as well in the end, because once you get kind of confronted with the idea of Alicia Mael fusion bringing back everybody, she realizes she can like, absorb the chroma from the Axios and repaint everybody that has died.
Yeah, bring her husband back
CL is
and
like, yeah, CL's like, oh, I know me and you hooked up a couple times, Verso, but my husband's gonna be repainted, so I'm not interested in you anymore. He's my true love. And Verso's like, damn, okay. And that was just interesting. I don't know. I didn't know what CL would choose. So I thought it was interesting that they didn't even make it a choice for her. She was just like, yeah, my husband's coming back. That's it. Like I loved him, and you were just a plaything in the meantime. And then the whole from Verso's perspective, his life is truly torture. He's immortal. He knows he's a painted version of his real self who's dead. And he has feelings for these people like his mom and Renoir, his dad, who he knows are not actually his dad and his mom. They're just like fragmented memories from the version of himself that he was made in the image of. And he has feelings for them, but they weren't really his feelings. It's so interesting. And the same with his relationship with Minoko and Eskie. I know you didn't dig too deep into the dialogue here, but Verso's really close with Minoko and really close with Eskie. They're all best friends. But Eskie and Minoko are part of the few people who in the world who know that they're in a canvas and that Verso is based on a painted version of the real Verso and that Verso is dead and that he's just a separate person entirely from them, basically. It's like there's a lot of interesting dynamics going on here. And it all leads up to the end. Which ending did you choose?
well, first off, I gotta say real quick, this is literally the ending, the final showdown battle between Cloud and Sephiroth. This is such a Final Fantasy VII ending rip, and I love it.
Okay. I didn't know if you're going to like it or hate it.
I
Cool.
loved it
Cool.
just
You
for
liked
that
it.
reason, where it finally felt. Once you got to the end of the game, I'm like, all right, this is a JRPG. You know, over the top. You're fighting
Okay.
God, not God. It's your mom, but it's not your mom.
Right.
This big massive
Right.
battle. Right before that, you fight, or let's see, you fight your mom, then you fight your dad, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like these epic God scale battles, and then the finale, which is the in between worlds finale. You're not in the painting, you're not in the real world, you're somewhere in the lands in between. And of course, I picked my
Right.
girl Maya. I mean, she's it's it's what it's all about. Like we've spent all this time in the world. Who cares about the real world? I didn't go spend any time in the real world. All my friends are here in this fictitious painting. Like Team Maya all the way. Plus, she's a way better party character. And it wasn't even like I think I killed him in one shot because she's so powerful. And I'm like, it is like honestly
Yeah.
from a plot perspective. Well, okay, from a plot perspective mixed with the gameplay and what it is, like she's so overpowered that it's hilarious that they're even fighting at all. Like Verso is so weak in comparison to her that it's hilarious that this is the final showdown. This is it. It is an
Yeah.
absolute David and Goliath scenario, except David doesn't even have a sling. So you just go in there and absolutely stomp him in like 2 turns as Mael, and so that was my ending. Was her ending.
Yeah. And I bet you didn't experience this because of how mainline you went, but it's funny because there is a scene, it's an optional, I think, side quest where you can go and like, I think Verso wants to do it, where you go and find Alicia and she's painting at the top of this tower and you have this fight with her and I think some minions. My memory's a little fuzzy, but then there's a second stage of the fight where it's just Mael versus Alicia. And of course, Mael can do heavy damage for fire attacks, and Alicia is canonically weak to fire because she's
Mm.
burned. And again, it's the same thing where Mael just absolutely kicks her ass. Even it's a fairly tough fight, but Mael kicks her ass and comes out on top. And Alicia begs Mael to be unpainted. She says she's suffering. I don't want this life. Please. And Mael goes, okay, and unpaints her. And I did the same ending as you. I chose Mael because it seemed really ridiculous that Verso is flip-flopping the entire
Yeah.
story. I'm lying. I'm working for myself only. I'm helping you guys. I love you guys. I love CL. I'm sleeping with you. Oh, you rejected me. Oh, I wanna kill myself. Oh wait, I want to be alive. He was flip-flopping the entire story, and I got fed up with his
Yeah.
bullshit at
Yep.
the end. Especially when at the very end he betrays the whole crew by going into the painting. They're like, no, don't, please. He knows he's going to kill all of them. I know that it's not quote unquote real, it's a canvas, but he's going in to kill them all because of his own suffering,
Yeah. And
right?
he starts regurgitating his dad or his painted dad Renoir's ideologies again on the flip flop at the
Right,
end, where it's like you're just saying what
right.
Homeboy's been saying the whole time since the very beginning of the game, but at the very end you're deciding to say that. Hold
And
on, one
so
sec.
okay.
All right, I'm back.
So Alicia unpaints, or sorry, Mael unpaints Alicia right when she asked her to. And I chose the same thing as you did. I chose at least Mael's ending because I was tired of Verso's bullshit.
Mhm.
And Verso goes in and he's doing his same old shit. He's trying to kill everybody in the canvas and stop the canvas from existing. Mael wants to live her life in the canvas, even though she knows she will die there because she likes her life in the canvas better than she likes her life outside the canvas, being burned with no voice and knowing that there's an imminent war with the writers coming. And I think there's some sort of time dilation thing that happens to where the canvas is going to be just fine because when you're in the canvas, time doesn't pass. I don't know what it is, but obviously you can be in the canvas for hundreds of years while very little time is passing outside the canvas. So it extends your life
Yeah, and
essentially,
I'm assuming the
even
hosts,
though it will kill you
right?
eventually.
Because if you look at the rest of the family, they're slowly dying, and that's what's messing up Renoir. Is
Hmm.
because he says I
Also, the
can't
whole
take this anymore. Just watching my family get mutilated and suffer as they slowly die while being consumed by the canvas.
right, because if you spend too much time in the canvas, it eats you away. But I mean, that's the whole point of the story is that Aline, the mom, goes into Verso's canvas because she's overcome with grief from Verso dying in that fire. So she wants to spend time in Verso's canvas. And then Renoir goes in to pull her out of the canvas. And then they end up fighting. And that's why she becomes the paintress, because she's actually protecting everybody with all of her power, with all of her might, I should say, as Renoir is trapped underneath the monolith, trying to unpaint everybody. And that's what's going on every year that the Gommage happens, is that Renoir is unpainting everybody, and then she's trying her best to save everybody.
Right.
And I think if I understand that correctly, correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong. If
And
for anybody listening or you or
yeah,
whoever,
and it's not the 100 years counted down that's actually eliminating people. It's her power being taken away by Renoir. That's what's killing everyone, like via number or via age.
I think, or maybe she only has enough power to make it so that basically, if Renoir wants to kill everybody, he has to go through the screening process of that is Aline's power, and she can only save everybody who I don't know. I don't know. It's confusing. But anyways, getting back to the ending, Mael beats Verso, and he's laying on the ground defeated. And he's begging, please, I don't want this life. Unpaint me. You have the power to do it. Just unpaint me, please. Please. He's begging her. And here I go again. I'm empathizing with Verso again. I'm like, this is a man who just wants out. He's lived more than 100 years suffering, knowing the reality of his situation, knowing he is a reflection of a person who's dead, of that all of the people he's loved, had connections with, been in love with, been friends with, have died, except for Minoko and Eskie. He's had so much suffering in his life. All he wants is out. And Mael would not do the same mercy she did for her, the reflection of herself in Alicia. She selfishly keeps him around and says, no, I love you like a brother. You're going to stay around for me. And forces him to be repainted. And the ending scene comes in. All the characters that you've missed and grown attached to that would have died are back. Gustav is back. Ciel's husband is back. Everybody's happy. You're in Lumiere. You're in a theater. All is bliss. And you sit down. Mael apparently has a pseudo child. I'm not sure if it's a reborn version of Verso or if it's her own kid or whatever that is. It's like some little boy who she apparently is a mother figure to. And Verso comes out on stage.
There's that 4x3 again.
Yep, exactly. And this is a funny reference to a dialogue option you can have earlier when you play piano for Mael when she's feeling sad. And he says, maybe next time I play for you, it'll be on a stage. And here he comes walking out on stage, older, white hair, even though it's implied that he dyes his hair black because he's so vain. He's sad. He clearly looks distraught. And he sits down and starts playing piano. And the scene cuts to a close-up of Mael with her face starting to decay in the same way that Eileen, her mother's, did when you stay in a painting for too long. And it is one of the darkest endings to a game I can remember in a very long time. Everything is happy except for the fact that she's forcing this man to basically be her dancing puppet. It stuck with me. I loved it. And although I didn't like, I loved the game at first, I got a little bit cooled off with it towards the middle ending part of it because it just got repetitive and I wasn't into it anymore. That ending was really good. I don't know, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pick Verso's ending, but Miles is like that. That's the ending. Now I think now, as far as canon goes, assuming that there's a sequel, it would have to be Verso's, because otherwise, I'm not sure. We've seen this many times where you're given an option, a very very big option at the end of a game, but then the sequel just is going to pick some option that wasn't what you picked or is what you picked, and then they move on with the story. I was thinking of that, and of course I ended up watching the alternate ending, and it seems
I did too.
like Verso's ending would be the one that would make the most sense for the story to continue as far as the sequel goes, which sucks because
in Verso's ending, everybody in the canvas dies.
Right. Which sucks because Mael's ending I think is more powerful, but it makes the least amount of sense as far as the sequel goes.
But what's the sequel going to be if everybody in the canvas is dead?
It's going to be the writers versus the painters.
I guess you're right, yeah. And it's going to be that family, the Renoir and Aline, the Desandre family,
yeah,
I think.
Exactly. That's where I imagine things go from here. So that's how you continue the trilogy. Is that whole aspect that you barely know about until the very end finally opens up. But I love it. I absolutely love it because when it cuts to 4x3 and it cuts to that grayscale and you see her face becoming that same hollowed out, cratered face that you've seen so many times throughout the game, whether it's from her mother or her father or various figures, right outside that canvas in reality, her real self is rotting.
Yeah.
And the whole canvas is based off of his death. And he's still forced to not only remain dead in real life, but continue a dead, unwanted version of himself in that canvas.
Yeah.
For the sake of her trauma, suffering-induced mother's creations of what she painted through his image. Like, it's miserably propped up, but beautifully propped up.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's very well said. And it's a haunting ending. It's interesting how the entire game is about confronting mortality. And Mael, who's kind of depicted as the hero, and Verso, who's depicted as the anti-hero maybe, or like you said, he flip-flops throughout the entire game, and you're not sure about him. You don't trust him. And in the end, Mael is like just icy cold and kind of the baddie. It just makes you think about, are any of these people good? Is anybody's motive just? I mean, because in the other ending, all these other characters who you got attached to, Lune, Ciel, Manoko, Eskie, Verso just kills
Yeah,
them
like
all.
they don't even
I mean,
exist.
yes, they don't, yeah, like technically they don't exist outside of the canvas, but their existence is real to them, and he erases it.
It's why it reminds me so much of Link's Awakening, where your entire experience.
Spoiler for Link's
Spoiler for
Awakening.
Link's Awakening. The game came out, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s. I can't remember. It's a Game Boy game. Got remade.
You never know when people are
It's
going to
true.
jump
You
in.
never know when people are going to jump in. But you spend the entire game with an entire world and an entire cast of characters that you grow so fond of that are completely wiped out, only to have one character remain or maybe two characters remain, and that's it. It also kind
Yeah.
of makes you think about how much of your life you spend not existing in the present because it's so much better than whatever your
Mm.
life currently is. And that's been super relatable to me over the years, where there are so many times in my life where whatever world that I'm in or whatever my imagination is doing is so much better than whatever my real life is, that I would so much like I'm team Mael in that way. When I can
Yeah.
get lost in a book or get lost in a movie or lost in a game or whatever it is, that is so much higher quality of life than my real life at that point in time, that I'll do anything to stay in that universe, to stay in that medium. And I could just
Yeah.
relate to her so much. I don't want to leave this fictitious land that I'm living in. I don't care if I'm wasting my life or my time or if I'm living in a world that's make believe. This is better than what I'm experiencing right now, and I will stay there no matter what. That was very relatable.
It is, and it forces you to confront the question of, if you are enjoying yourself, what's the difference?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
if you enjoy reading that book or playing that video game more than you enjoy, I don't know, whatever else people consider a good life, mowing the lawn, going on a run, working, if you're in
Yeah.
America. And if you enjoy those things, like working, and that's what you find fulfillment out of, then do it. And if you like the game, then do it. The problem in Mael's case is that it's hurting people. And the problem in Verso's case is that, in his case, he's trying to kill himself. That's also hurting people. I don't know. It's a very deep and profound question, and it is very relatable. And so is, this year so far in 2025, we are all confronting mortality in certain ways, and I've definitely, on a personal level, confronted it a couple times, just with losses that I've experienced, and it's just an interesting. This game hits home in a way that I haven't experienced in a while, honestly, since maybe like Death Stranding or Breath of the Wild or Life is Strange, and it's a special game. That's why I rated it so high. It fumbles, it stumbles. I shouldn't say fumbles. It stumbles a lot, but man, it makes you ask questions and it makes you think, and it's a beautiful story.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. Clair Obscure.
God, I love that death music is so
It
good.
would make me so mad sometimes, but it was so good. I'm like, shut up about Clair Obscure. Shut up about Clair Obscure. As you die to a boss. Yeah, incredible game, incredible experience.
And one of maybe the only time that we have recorded a podcast that I've rated a game higher than you, and it was only by a
It's
0.5.
true. That's how good of a game it was.
Yeah. I looked up, I didn't just know this, if anybody's listening, I didn't just have this knowledge, but I looked up what Clair Obscure actually means, and it's a French term for light to dark. It's usually used in referring to painting. It's a painting technique. It's also interesting that that's pretty much the character arc that Mael goes through, which
From
is
being
definitely pretty dark at the end. And also, I like that a lot of the scenes that are portending her transition are also in black and white.
yeah.
That was great. Wow, what a game. Let me go through my notes to see if I'm missing anything here.
Yeah, the only thing I had in my notes was just me complaining about a bunch of unreal things. I've never had a game crash more than this.
Oh my God. Really?
I
I didn't
had
have any crashes.
probably 30 crashes, maybe more.
What? Really? It's probably because you updated your
no,
drivers.
no, I
I mean, I didn't update my drivers. I didn't have a
yeah,
single
I
crash.
had so many crashes, it was unreal. I think I had 18. I was counting 18 crashes before my 15-hour mark. By the time I finished, I don't even know how many I had. But again, when the game's that good, that doesn't matter. But I was averaging about a crash every hour, hour and a half.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, menu,
And you couldn't figure out anything that was triggering it
cutscenes.
just
Yeah, no.
randomly?
Yeah,
Really? I didn't have a single crash my entire experience, but I did have some performance issues and hiccups. I pretty much figured it out through settings, and I also just 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 got used to it, I guess. But one thing that bothered me is that the hair and the shadows that the hair made on people's faces was so pixelated. Did you
yeah, oh
have
yeah,
this?
yeah. That was
What was that? That was so distracting. I tried so long in the beginning to fix that, and I just couldn't. It was just a part of the engine or part of the game. Must have been something about the hair physics and the dynamic shadows was really
yeah.
tripping out.
There's just some very odd lighting issues with Unreal 5 that affect all games, and I don't know if it's just the developers, like the engine's new. Maybe this in Unreal 4 games, I've never had problems with lighting. Like usually it's just performance issues or shader compilation stutter, something like that. Open world
Yeah.
issues, it's always something in that regard. But it was very strange. Just less performance issues being the problem. It certainly has its performance issues, of course, but I was more annoyed by visual oddities than anything, which sucks because the game looks so good otherwise.
Do you think it had something to do with the lack of HDR?
Oh man, the game really could have used HDR. That is for sure.
Yes,
Oh
it
man,
could have.
and I hope someday there's a definitive edition that adds HDR, or maybe the devs will do an update someday. The game's way too colorful to not have HDR.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a modding scene for it. I never even checked.
Yeah, I downloaded a mod from Nexus that was supposed to help with stutters and some things, and it helped iron some things out a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I didn't worry about it too much.
Did you ever go to any of the gestural beaches?
No.
Man, there's so much of this game
Oh,
you
I
don't
know.
experience.
I am in desperate need of a replay.
Man, the gestural beaches is something I really wanted to talk to you about. There's like this obstacle course that it's ridiculous. The things you were talking about earlier with that all JRPGs have, which is volleyball or little fun little side things. Like those all happened in the exploration of the world, and the gestural beaches specifically was like a fun little side quest, side activity, mini game kind of thing. It was fun.
Yeah, we might have to have a revisit at some point when I play the other 30 hours of the game.
Yeah, at one point we can come back and do like a little a
Retrospective.
little yeah retrospective podcast about it. What's funny though is that I don't think I'll ever play this game again. I don't think I have any motivation to come back to it.
When you play it as thoroughly as you did, I could see that. I think I would just do it mostly for
Yeah,
understanding
like
the story more now that I have a good idea of what it was trying to do.
yeah, yeah. I think I've got pretty much everything out. Looking at my notes that I wanted to say.
Yeah, so do I.
Can't say enough about the music.
Yeah, I got to get the vinyl. It's so good.
Yeah, I'd love
I've
that
been
too.
telling everybody about it, even
Um,
people who
you
don't
know,
care about games. I'm like, dude, this soundtrack is crazy. You gotta listen to it.
yeah, yeah. One of my employees is in a band. He plays keys. He's really talented, and I sent him a couple of the songs just to, I don't know, just to see if he would appreciate it. He doesn't play video games, but he really appreciates music, and it was just fun hearing his perspective. And he says it's really good. The story is really good. I think it lacks verisimilitude in some aspects, but I think overall it's a uh, 8.5 out of 10 game, 7.5 out of 10 story, 10 out of 10 music, 7 out of 10 gameplay.
Which definitely averages out to 8.5.
Absolutely. Don't
Don't
do
do
the
the
math on
math
it
on
though.
it. All right. Sometimes you got to pee, have extra drinks, and have fresh battery. Sometimes you got to be more prepared. And I was not.